You're probably thinking $200,000 as a registered nurse. That's an insane amount of money. I never would have imagined this amount of money coming out of nursing school just 6 years ago in 2016. I was only making $50,000 a year, and now I was on track to make $200,000 a year. That's mind-blowing. The money was phenomenal. Phenomenal, guys. It was great, but it definitely took a toll. And here's why I quit and stopped working as a registered nurse for $200,000 a year. Before I start getting into that, make sure you are subscribed to my channel, like this video, and comment down below. Let me know who you are, all that good stuff. If you're a nurse, if you also were making this amount of money as a registered nurse and have stopped. Now, comment all of that below, subscribe, like. Okay, let's get into today's content. From working as a bedside staff nurse in Pennsylvania in a huge hospital system, to then moving down here to Atlanta, Georgia, and working in an outpatient clinic, I didn't see big pay increases throughout my years of nursing. I probably was on pace with a normal nurse pay salary, and the money wasn't bad. I will say that. I don't want to sound ungrateful because the money was good, but it wasn't as good as compared to this last year. After I moved here to Atlanta, Georgia, I realized my money was not going as far as it was up in the countryside of Pennsylvania where I was living. So my salary being one of the various reasons I left my outpatient job, I started looking for new positions and new work. Now, of course, I was familiar with travel nursing as I had a ton of coworkers going into travel nursing, doing true travel nursing. But then I became aware of local travel nursing. I wasn't really familiar with this type of nursing. I wanted to be able to come home to my husband every single night, and true travel nursing, you can't do that. But local travel nursing, I could do that. Now, if you are familiar with my channel, you would know that I came out with a video a few months ago on how I tripled my income as a registered nurse. And that's exactly right. I tripled my income by becoming a local travel nurse and leaving the outpatient clinic world. My very first travel contract was a crisis contract, a local crisis contract, and I was on pace to making over $200,000 a year. And I could have earned well above that if I stayed at that facility and if I picked up overtime. Because we all know as nurses, you virtually can pick up overtime whenever you want. And like I said, the amount of money seems ridiculous that a registered nurse with a bachelor's degree, no further schooling, just a BSN can make that amount of money. I heard of nurses making $500,000 a year with a BSN degree, no masters, no NP, nothing. Staff bedside nurses making over $500,000 a year. And I thought $200,000 sounded like a lot, which it is a lot. But $500,000, that's wild. But that money didn't come without sacrifices. The outpatient clinic I was working at was a pretty cush job. It was so laid back, guys. I came into work, got there within 10 minutes, which if you know anything about Atlanta, you know traffic is terrible. But I got to my job within 10 minutes from my apartment at the time. I left on time. I had like an hour lunch break, literally an hour lunch break. I never missed lunch. It was beautiful, but I wanted to go into local travel nursing. I wanted to be making this amount of money. I had a house I wanted to save for. I needed to make more money. So my first travel contract, like I said, was a crisis response contract. I drove 45 miles one way, which sometimes ended up being over an hour depending on traffic. And it was a pretty disheveled hospital. We had the National Guard working at the hospital. It was like I was being a nurse from 50 years ago. That's how behind this hospital seemed in medicine. So I really understood why this was a crisis response hospital contract. So we saved the money. My husband and I kept saving that money because housing market, you all know, was terrible. If you know anything about Atlanta, like I said before, the housing market was insane here in Atlanta, and one of the fastest growing cities. It was hard to find a house that didn't already have 30 other offers. The first house we went to see, we didn't put an offer, had 70 offers on it. 70 offers. It was nuts. So we needed to save money in order to buy a house here. And I'm thankful that these contracts allowed me to do that. So let's fast forward. Let's get into why I quit travel nursing. Let's get into it. Why I quit working and making $200,000 a year. So the last few weeks of my contract, just this past September, my contract ended October 1st. The last few weeks of September, it just felt like things were falling apart. First of all, my body felt like it was falling apart. My feet were terrible. I thought I was gonna have to go to a podiatrist. They've never hurt like that in my life. But not only did my body feel like it was falling apart a little bit, the hospital that I was at felt like it was also falling apart a little bit. Now, I was to be working on a surgical floor only. This was GI surgeries, bariatric surgeries. Everything in this area, surgical-wise, is what we were doing. But that wasn't really the patient population I felt like I was taking care of anymore. And it was like that for a few months. I was at the same hospital for 10 months, just renewing my contract and renewing and renewing and renewing. They needed the help. It was only 5 minutes from home, so I just kept going back. I was then being floated to the medical surgical makeshift unit. Yes, it was a makeshift unit. This wasn't a unit that ever had a designated manager for a few months, although when I was leaving, they finally designated another manager over this makeshift unit. It was just, all right, pretty much every day, any travelers, it was all a floor of travelers. I was a charge nurse as a traveler. Yep, I was charging as a traveling nurse on this floor. That's what kind of makeshift unit this was. I was having patients on titratable insulin drips, also with heparin running, and a stroke alert, all within a few hours of each other. That was like my patient assignment, and those were just 3 of the patients. I had 2 other patients on top of that for a total of 5, but it just seemed so unsafe. And then not only that, we were then getting patients with monkeypox, which just then put a whole new other stress level on top of your normal patient assignment. But that's not why I stopped travel nursing. I stopped because I couldn't be the biblical wife I wanted to be and what the Bible calls me to be. I wasn't being a good helper at home. I wasn't being a good helper to my husband. I was exhausted, not balancing my home life well and my work-life balance well, and not spending the time in the Word that I knew I needed to be spending in it. And on top of not being the wife that the Bible calls me to be, I was not able to come to an agreement with the facility on my next contract. And this was as far as scheduling went. They wanted to change my working schedule, and that would have taken away time from my home life, from my time with my husband. What they wanted me to work was not sustainable for my marriage. So what did I do? I didn't re-sign my contract. So it was a Wednesday, and my contract was ending Saturday. So October 1st, my contract was ending. So that Wednesday, I told them, no, I'm sorry, this does not allow me to be a good wife at home. I am not going to come to terms with this new schedule that you want me to do that's taking away from my home life and then also being able to serve my church well. So I didn't resign, and that was that. I gave them 3 days notice. But that is the reality of the travel nurse world. Things can change constantly, not only personal life issues, but what the facility's needs are. And I was not willing to succumb to what they wanted me to do. I had no job lined up, and I'm still not working in a hospital right now. It's been just over 2 weeks that I have not been working, and I will say, it feels great. It feels wonderful. My feet feel better. I am able to serve my husband better at home. And it really has opened my eyes into a whole different kind of nursing I want to go into further from here. Not further as in distance, but a whole new type of nursing I've never heard of that I am trying to get into. In growing in my career and my marriage and the Lord's sanctification, I have a clear understanding of what a work-life balance is. Towards the end, travel nursing, making $200K a year was great money. but it wasn't a good work-life balance. It absolutely served a purpose in my life, and I'm very thankful that the Lord had put me in there and we were able to save all this money to get this house that we're in now, but it was time to leave. Have any of you ever gotten to this point where you're like, I cannot sustain this job anymore. The work-life balance is not good. I need to go. If you have, comment that below. I want to hear your story of why you left bedside nursing or why you left a nursing job, because I have left so many nursing jobs. I started in med-surg, then I was ER, then I was outpatient, then I was travel. So now I'm getting into my 5th type of nursing, which I will have a video on, I promise. A whole new kind of nursing, never thought about before, and I'm trying to get all of that settled. So video will be coming soon with a career update. But if you have gone through this process, let me know and comment that below. I want to hear your story. I hope this video kind of helps you question whether your job has a good work-life balance. And is it worth it? It wasn't worth it to me anymore to be feeling the way I was feeling, to be the lack of a wife that I was being, not being in the Word daily, not being the Christian that I was called to be. It's not worth it sometimes. I didn't want to idolize money, and that's where it came to be, and that's where it felt like it was coming to be, that I was idolizing the money rather than my true priorities. A book that really helped me in understanding what it meant to be a biblical wife was Feminine Appeal by Katherine. So if any of you are wives out there or would love to be a wife one day, I highly recommend this book. There's the front cover of it, and it's really talking about being transformed by what Titus 2 says. Some of the chapters in here are called The Delight of Loving My Husband, The Blessing of Loving My Children, although I don't have any children, The Safety of Self-Control, The Pleasure of Purity, The Honor of Working at Home, The Reward of Kindness, The Beauty of Submission, and Margaret's Story. Those are all some of the chapters that are in this book. So I highly, highly, highly recommend this book, and this really helped me see what it meant to be a biblical wife. But that is really about it for today's video, everyone. Let me know your thoughts on my story here. I'd love to hear from you. Make sure you are subscribed, like this video, and share. I would love if you shared this video with other nurses out there to help them in their work-life balance. Have a great day, everyone, and I'll see you in the next video. See ya.